Within the Fallout universe, there often appears to be glimpses of another world, or universes, beyond the veil of what the average Wastelander can see. Some residents of the Waste have had the fortune, or misfortune, to witness events that have an otherworldly feel to them, and these can come in many shapes and sizes. Whether it's trapped human spirits, eldritch powers, or horrors beyond our imagining, there evidently is something on the other side of Fallout. So let's take a look at them today. In the year of 1894, Lorenzo Cabot took an expedition to the Rub al-Khali desert. Intent on locating the lost city of Ubar, Lorenzo was convinced that he would find evidence of a pre-human civilization, something that his colleagues and family scoffed at. Unfortunately for them, he did. A subterranean city was found, buried beneath the sands, a millennia older than the earliest human settlements. And yet, despite its age, the city contained technology that had evolved far beyond even the most advanced tech of mankind, even in their golden age. The technology, tools, and writing found across the city spoke of a civilization completely different from mankind, concrete evidence of a race that was beyond us millions of years before we were even thought of. However, the most disturbing find of all lay within a sarcophagus, the corpse of one of these forerunners with a golden crown atop its head. Being the worst archaeologist known to man, Lorenzo chose to remove the crown from the head of the corpse and placed it upon his own, upon which the man that was once Lorenzo arguably ceased to be. The crown immediately fused to his nervous system, with Lorenzo gaining immortality, superhuman strength, and telekinesis all at once. However, these were mere perks to the knowledge that he was able to obtain. Lorenzo gazed upon the ruined city and immediately knew more than he ever did prior. The city's name was not Ubar, the building was not a temple, and the sarcophagus was not actually a crypt. The carvings on the wall around the city were able to be deciphered, speaking of dimensions beyond the one of our world, and ways of adhering to laws of space and time unknown to the human mind. According to Lorenzo, through the crown he communes with the ancient minds that founded our civilization, and whether they live within it, or it communicates with them through time or space, or whether the crown just simply holds their memories, he doesn't know. But what he does know is that it has widened his horizons beyond the tiny scope granted to normal men. Even after 400 years, Lorenzo still lives, and claims to still communicate with the agents who built the helmet. And while we don't know for sure, it seems all or at least a portion of their civilization were able to transcend to another plane of existence. Not quite dead, but not quite alive either, but still existing, in a realm beyond our imagining. Perhaps we may know more if Lorenzo returns to exhume the ruined city, or perchance the other hidden city, theorized to lie underneath the Mojave Wasteland. Lorenzo's usage of the crown was able to provide him with a glimpse of worlds in other dimensions. The question stands though if the crown, or the powers that it provides, are supernatural in nature, or simply just the result of extremely advanced technology. But there are examples of other dimensions or worlds beyond our perception, with some particular individuals sharing in its power. Psykers, or psychics, can be found scattered across the wasteland. Some can commune with individuals through their dreams, like Hakunin, while others, such as the Forecaster or the Shaman Sulik, can see things that they shouldn't be able to, and also communicate with those who have left this world. The Forecaster states that his parents are no longer amongst the living, yet he can speak with them when he removes his psychic nullifier. Sulik possesses the ability to communicate with spirits of his tribe's ancestors, most notably his deceased grandfather. The Chosen One can ask him to consult the spirits for advice on their quests and adventures, with his responses being disturbingly insightful. Most shockingly, they appear to be aware when other legitimate ghosts are nearby. As if spoken to when in possession of Anna Winslow's locket, Sulik states that his ancestors claim another spirit is here that needs help. See, not everyone needs psychic gifts to see that the Wasteland is not the only plane of existence in the Fallout universe. If their will is strong enough, any regular person can come across spirits of the deceased who have not yet passed on from this world. In Fallout 2, the Chosen One is able to come across a strange woman who only appears at night. The woman is described as ethereal and raving about the loss of her precious locket. The Chosen One can interact with her, with the player even requesting her to turn off her stealth buoy in order to see her more clearly. But unfortunately, this woman isn't utilizing a stealth buoy, but is instead the trapped spirit of a person named Anna Winslow. While she is aware of the player's presence, she's unable to hear their attempts to communicate with her. She merely just screams of the torment and pain she faces and begs for a release. And upon investigation, the player can discover that a junkie named Joey had squatted in the empty home of Anna. Joey obviously also experienced her presence, but he dismissed this as merely a bad trip, and is too fearful to return back to the location. Anna is stuck in purgatory after Joey had stolen the aforementioned locket of hers, which the player can then obtain from him. And once returned, Anna is released from her suffering. She thanks the player for saving her and declares that she can now see her family and loved ones, before disappearing into a bright light. Other examples are also seen within Fallout 4's Nuka World DLC, where the sole survivor is able to encounter another undeniably ghostly presence. The Grantchester Mystery Mansion was a pre-war haunted house tourist attraction that the character is able to explore. The former residents of their house had a child named Lucy, who can only be described as evil, and having believed her to be possessed by spirits, they built elaborate yet eccentric sections of the house, such as staircases and doors that led nowhere, to confuse the spirits that plagued their daughter. The couple were eventually found murdered within their home, and the daughter was placed in a mental institution after being found guilty of said murder. On her 18th birthday, Lucy escaped and returned to the mansion and chose to end her life by hanging herself within the attic. Yet it appears that her spirit managed to live on. While exploring the location, the sole survivor is able to see Lucy. She can be seen staring lifelessly at the character from a window prior to them entering the building. She also appears out of reach of the character while they explore the mansion, running through the hallways and doors of the house. And evidently, another occupant of the house, named Zachariah, also has experienced her presence, stating in a terminal entry that his Assaultron must be malfunctioning, as he somehow is able to hear the laughter of a young girl emanating through the house. The sole survivor can traverse up to the very attic that young Lucy had hung herself in which she can be found, but upon trying to reach the girl, she sprints through another door, which upon opening is revealed to lead nowhere. The last ghostly presence that speaks to a world beyond the one that we know is linked directly to one of the most prominent post-war faiths in the Wasteland, the Church of the Children of Adam. However, opinions differ on the ethereality, largely on if you believe in the tenets of the Church, that each atom contains its own individual universe. This presence, spirit, or person is known only as the Mother or the Fog. The faithful of Adam believe her to be a holy icon and messenger of their god Atom, who guides his chosen in their path that he's laid for them. The spooky thing is, there's a chance, however slight, that it is true. The sole survivor can be encouraged to drink from an irradiated spring, with the intent of being shown a vision. And whether it's the fact that they get extremely high from drinking this pollution, or that they do see a vision from an actual god, the Mother of the Fog reveals herself to them. Appearing as an otherworldly spectre, the Mother seems to fade in and out of existence, with the landscape draped in the pale green of Atom's kingdom. And yet she is evidently real. The player directly interacts with her in this radioactive hellscape, and the other children of Atom are also aware of her. However, it could also be likely she's perhaps just a hermit, as some of the more skeptical religious folk believe. One that simply watches people who drink from the spring, and then basically takes on the role of a spectre when they're tripping from reality. Perhaps the most insidious example of an alternate dimension to the one of the known world stems from a pre-war company. Dunwich Borers LLC was a pre-war company that specialised in boring and excavation equipment, with a HQ office located in Washington DC and excavation sites visible in the Commonwealth. Dunwich Borers was legitimately a successful company, yet their usage of drilling and mining equipment was instead a front for the company's founder's darker mission: the worship of a dark forgotten god by the name of Ug-Qualtoth. What Ug-Qualtoth actually is, we don't know. What we do unfortunately know is that something, be it this god or some other eldritch horror, does exist. The choice of location for the Dunwich Building's HQ was not one down to pure real estate. Instead, buried beneath the site was a forgotten chamber containing a temple to this dark god. In recorded history, few individuals have entered the chamber. Richard Dunwich, the founder of the company, entered the day of the Great War to unite with his god. In more recent times, a man named Jamie and his father had also heard the call and made their way into the temple. In it stands an obelisk, radioacting in atomic energy, seemingly worshipped by ghouls. The effigy of a woman seems to be reaching out from the obelisk as if to escape it, held back by the stone vines and skulls that run up alongside the carving. The obelisk itself seems to be able to turn people into ghouls and twist their minds into the service of its maker. Jamie's logs go from a man stunned that his companions would kill innocents, to a ghoul pledging to flay anyone who came as a tribute to the god beyond the veil. Furthermore, ghouls appear to be summoned by the obelisk itself, seemingly emerging from the walls of the cavern to attack any interlopers. Another idol to Ug-Qualtoth, the Krvbekna, is a holy book to this dark god. Those that possess the book seem to use it for unholy rituals, namely via human sacrifice, with the book providing the owner extended lifespan and dominion over others. The swamp folk of Point Lookout and even sane-minded individuals like Obadiah Blackhall worship the book, declaring that Ug-Qualtoth will be returned with its power. The only way to destroy it is by returning it to perhaps the site of whence it came into this world. When the book is pressed against the obelisk, it explodes into flame, in a manner similar to the destruction of the One Ring. Apparently, the only thing that can destroy something from Ug-Qualtoth's realm is one of his own creations. Another pre-war site for the Dunwich Company was also used as a front for the excavation and worship of this eldritch god. The Dunwich Borer Quarry in Massachusetts was a safety inspector's nightmare. Railings were old and rusty, supports replaced once in a blue moon, and mere robots were hired to keep people from getting too close to the excavation edges. The cost-cutting measures seem like an exceptionally bleak take on late-stage capitalism, especially as workers died in considerable numbers. However, the real premise was much darker. The pit managers instead were encouraged to allow as many deaths as possible, as the site was not simply a quarry for marble, but the excavation dig for a titanic statue dedicated to Ug-Qualtoth, with much more to be unearthed. One man's workplace accident is another man's human sacrifice. On one fateful day, the company's management found what they were looking for. A temple much similar to the one in DC was unearthed, where the workers and their families were gathered, bound, and sacrificed for the glory of Ug-Qualtoth. And this is able to be witnessed in a vision 200 years into the future by the sole survivor as they delve into the depths of the cavern. And fortunately for them, they're able to obtain a prize that was seemingly thrust from one world into ours. On a submerged altar, the sole survivor can obtain a warped machete known as Krem's Tooth, and beneath it, the eye of a statue peers back at the player, hinting at a subterranean city dedicated to Ug-Qualtoth lying right beneath their feet. This dark god is evidently very patient, and doesn't seem to mind waiting another few centuries for someone else to dig up the rest of his temple. Beyond Ug-Qualtoth, there also does seem to be other otherworldly entities that seek the domination and worship of mankind. Appearing in Fallout 76, an entity known only as the Interloper is able to be found within Appalachia, with its own cult formed around it. The Interloper appears to be a plant-based entity with most of its body, so to speak, formed as branches. However, it is also disturbingly humanoid. A pair of grotesque misshapen legs sprout from it, a humanoid torso, several hands, and what appears to be a mouth are also visible, and when cut, the branches will bleed. As to what the hell this thing is, no one really knows. However, it is not something of this world. Although stationary, it calls out to weaker minds and visions, compelling them to serve its will. The visions range from events past, present, and potentially future, with its key followers ascribing them being fetched from the unknowable horrors in the vision of our subconscious minds. An even wackier cult in the vicinity has evidently also experienced the interlopers interloping, yet remains steadfast in their conviction against it, claiming that there's no fouler deceit than one garbed in truth. Shun it for its call, for it can only bring darkness. And that is all the examples of a world beyond the one we know in Fallout. Please let me know if there are any that I'd missed, as I'd love to expand on them in a further video. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, you know what to do.